Good afternoon. Welcome to the Monetary Policy Stance press briefing. Let us welcome the following: Monetary Board Chairman and Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor, Governor Ellie M. Remolona Jr., Senior Assistant Governor Iluminada T. Sicat of the Monetary Policy Subsector, and Officer in Charge Dennis D. Lapid of the Department of Economic Research. Governor Remolona will now deliver the statement on the monetary policy decision. Governor.
At its meeting today, the Monetary Board decided to maintain the BSP's target reverse repurchase rate at 6.5%. The interest rates on the overnight deposit and lending facilities will remain at 6% and 7% respectively. The balance of risks to inflation outlook has shifted to the downside for 2024 and 2025, due largely to the impact of lower import tariffs on rice under Executive Order 62. Nonetheless, higher prices of food items other than rice, transport charges, and electricity rates continue to pose upside risks to inflation. Inflation is moving closer to the midpoint of the 2 to 4% target range. The risk-adjusted inflation forecasts have eased to 3.1% for both 2024 and 2025, from 3.8% and from 3.7% respectively. Based on the BSP's latest survey of market forecasters, inflation expectations remain well anchored. Meanwhile, prospects for domestic output growth remain in line with medium-term trends amid favorable labor market conditions and strong net exports. On balance, the Monetary Board deems it appropriate to hold monetary policy settings steady at this time. The Monetary Board also anticipates price pressures to ease further in the second half of the year with the implementation of EO 62 as well as Administrative Order 20. If sustained, an improvement in the inflation outlook would allow more scope to consider a less restrictive monetary policy stance. However, uncertainty in the external environment calls for some caution against potential spillovers, including those in the financial markets. Looking ahead, the BSP will ensure that monetary policy settings remain in line with its primary mandate to safeguard price stability conducive to sustainable economic growth. Thank you. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Governor. At this point, we would like to request Senior Assistant Governor Sicat to elaborate on the BSP's inflation forecast for 2024 and 2025.
Based on the meeting this morning by the Monetary Board, baseline assumption forecast for 2024 was reduced from 3.5, now at 3.3. And the risk-adjusted inflation forecast from a previous board meeting in May, from 3.8%, it's now down to 3.1%. For 2025, the risk-adjusted inflation forecast is at 3.1% from 3.7% in May meeting of the board. Now, the reduction in the outlook, inflation outlook, considered the shift in the balance of risk, which is now on the downside. Inflation expectation has also remained well anchored. The prospects for domestic output growth has remained largely intact over the medium term, although we continue to see uncertainty in the external environment, which could induce potential spillover by the financial market. Nonetheless, we see that monetary policy, which will remain tight, will continue to have a negative output gap, which will persist over the policy horizon.
Thank you, Senior Assistant Governor Sikat. We now proceed to questions from our media friends. We will begin with our reporters who are here today. Reminder, please to raise your hand and wait for the microphone to be handed to you. Kindly state your name and identify your media organization before asking your question.
Governor, good afternoon. I'm Cliff Benson from Bloomberg News. You've previously said that an August rate cut is possible. So I'd like to reconfirm, is a rate cut in August still possible?
Actually, somewhat more likely than before.
Do we have any more questions?
And also, that means BSP is on track to cut even before the Federal Reserve makes its own rate reduction.
The Federal Reserve will cut, but we're on track to cut in the third quarter.
Thank you, Cliff. We have a next question.
Good afternoon, Gov. Mike Arceo from Manila Times. You previously said that inflation could still reach target until July. Are you still expecting it to happen since you adjusted your forecast downward? Thank you.
Can you say that again?
You said that inflation could still reach the target until July. Are we still expecting it?
I think in terms of monthly inflation numbers, it could reach in May or June, but just briefly, and then it comes back to within the target range. July. Then it says July, it could reach in July.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Micah.
Hello, good afternoon. Louise Oxon from Business World. In your monetary statement today, you said that the BSP is likely to keep settings, to hold settings steady. I think this is a departure from your previous statement last month that you would like to keep monetary settings sufficiently tight or restrictive. Does this mean that or would you say that the BSP is looking more dovish or less hawkish than you previously were? Thank you.
Different language, but the same meaning.
So, does that mean you're less hawkish than previously?
I think the last time I said we're somewhat more dovish. We're still hawkish, but less so. We're basically in the same position now. Somewhat more dovish than before.
Somewhat more dovish than before.
Somewhat, yeah.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify, Ms. Sikat, may we ask for the baseline forecast for 2025, if that was adjusted? Thank you.
Baseline forecast for 2025 is now at 3.1. 2025. That's lower as compared to the 3.3 we had estimated last May meeting of the board.
Thank you. Sagdu, was that clear? We'll move on to the next question.
Hello. Hi, Gov. Ian Sigaral from the Philippine Daily Inquirer. I would just like to ask, when does the BSP see inflation peaking? Do you think inflation might have already peaked in June? Thank you.
Yeah, basically we expect inflation to go down this year and maybe even next year, and then go up again in 2026, but stay within the target range. That's our expectation. By the way, the reduced tariffs on rice, we consider that a big deal. Nonetheless, we have to remember that the effect of that is largely to change relative prices. So price of rice much lower than prices of the other food items compared to before. Whereas inflation is really about a sustained rise in prices. Nonetheless, when the price of rice goes down, it can have significant second round effects, especially because the price of rice is a salient price, an important price in the formation of inflation expectations. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's not by itself. It's not a reduction in inflation. It's a reduction in measured inflation, but it's not a reduction in inflation as we look at inflation. It will help.
Thank you, Governor. We have a next question here.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Kai Ordinario from Business Mirror. I just wanted to ask, maybe you can elaborate on the uncertainties that you're seeing, including the financial uncertainties that you're seeing. Thank you.
So there's still some uncertainty with the other food items, so pork, corn, and fish. There's uncertainty with electricity rates and transport charges. So those are the main upside risks. The price of rice is a source of downside risk, and a few other things.
Yeah, just to add to what the governor said, we're also expecting adjustment in toll rates following the approval of the toll rates for North Luzon, SCTEX, and SLEX. We are also anticipating that there could be probably higher global crude oil prices should the problem in the Middle East, particularly brought about by conflict between Israel and Hamas, would further worsen.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Sagdu. Another question.
Hi, good afternoon, Gov. Jerome Morales here from Reuters. Governor, the peso has been trading at 19, 20-month highs. So what's the recent actions of the BSP on this? What's the comment of BSP in this pressure on the pesos recently?
We've been watching the peso. We don't want it to depreciate too sharply. We occasionally intervene. I think today we did intervene. So we don't want it to depreciate too sharply. The effect on inflation, as we can best estimate, is not very large. We think the pass-through, which is what we call the effect of depreciation and inflation, we estimated at 0.036% per 1% depreciation of the peso. So since the beginning of the year, the peso has depreciated 5.7%. So 5.7% against 0.036%, that adds up to a total of about 0.2% in inflation. So it's not a large pass-through.
Thank you, Gov. And in terms of the central bank's actions on the peso, how active is the central bank recently in the FX market?
We've been active when we sense stress in the market. When the market becomes dysfunctional, in other words, there's only one side, either selling or buying, then we come in on the other side. But mostly we come in to slow down the tendency of the peso to appreciate sharply. We don't come in every day.
Thank you, Governor. Any more questions? Okay, so since there are no more questions, I'll proceed with the questions that were sent to us. First question comes from Eileen Mencias of Abante Billionario. Can you quantify the impact of Executive Order 62 on food inflation and headline inflation?
It's about rice, so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna-
Our estimate based on the model, internal model, is that headline inflation could be lower by 12 basis points. Now, the impact of lower tariff on rice, rice prices could ease by 14.8% over a 12-month horizon.
Thank you, Sagdu. For the next question, also from Eileen Mencias of Abante Billionario, how would a hypothetical scrapping of the VAT and excise tax on petroleum products impact on inflation? How many items in the inflation basket would decline if the VAT and excise tax on petroleum products were scrapped?
If I may respond to that, there is no current proposal in the Committee on Inflation and Market. There is no proposal to scrap VAT or excise tax on petroleum products, and therefore we have not calculated any impact on that. That's not part of the proposals submitted to the IMO.
Thank you, Sagdu. And for our last question that was sent earlier, there was a question on how many members voted for this particular monetary policy action, Gov.
I think I'm still not allowed to say because we decided to keep this anonymous.
Thank you, Governor. We have another question on the floor.
Governor, for the rest of the year, how much basis points may the central bank cut with respect to the key rate?
I think we're likely to reduce by 25 basis points at a time. So if we follow the course where we think we are, that would mean 25 basis points in the third quarter and then 25 in the fourth quarter.
So 50 in total?
Possibly, yes.
Possibly.
Yes. As long as the data supports that course.
Thank you, Gov.
By the way, when it comes to inflation, the impact of monetary policy on inflation in 2024 is basically over because of the long lags of monetary policy. We're really talking about the effect on inflation in 2025.
Thank you, Governor. Are there any more questions?
Hi, Gov. Considering your previous remarks about financial conditions now being tighter than necessary, can we also expect an RRR cut this year? Thank you.
I think I didn't say tighter than necessary. They're as tight as necessary. We've been discussing the possibility of reducing the reserve requirement. We haven't decided on the timing of it, but I think the Monetary Board is largely in favor of cutting the reserve requirement at some point.
Thank you, Governor. Do we have any more questions? Okay, so since there are no more questions, we would like to thank everyone for their time and attention this afternoon, including those watching us live on our Facebook page. This ends our Monetary Policy Stance Press Briefing. Maraming salamat po.